So, guys, I'm going to give you a couple of potential good dogs. I'm not saying you have to bet them, but I'm saying there could be potential good dogs. And I'm also going to talk about some props for these fights. Now, uh, let's just get into it, guys. Hit that like, that sub, all that good stuff. And if you want to keep getting this content, if you want to keep winning, if you hate money, or if you hate MMA, just I don't know what you're doing here. But anyway, I think this is a weird one. Bilal Muhammad right here versus Ian Machado Gary is what welterweight. It's going to be 3 rounds, which is going to be interesting. Now, for this one, it's weird because I think, honestly, even before tape study, I think I had to go with Ian Gary. Not a really hot take, but Bilal could be a good dog. Now, if you have, what I mean by that is that, I mean, his name is always like, remember the name, Muhammad. I always made this joke, like, remember to hedge Muhammad, because he could mess up your parlays. He just had a way of doing it when you see him against Luque. I remember I did hedge on that one, and I was very happy to do so. But now this one, here's an interesting one. I think he's got the wrestling and pressuring style, right? For Bilal, and that's why he is going to have these good positions, and he wins decisions a lot of times. Gary can be sharp, but I think it's interesting. I think he's going to move around. Do his typical Aaron Gary style. He's going to be He's going to be bigger, taller, use his range. He's going to try to kind of point fight him. He'd be a slicker shots there. I think Bilal can use his boxing. His hands have been looking better, and he's got the grappling there. But I think I do believe he'll have some trouble actually getting him down. So I'm just saying, if you have Ian Gary as a final leg and you find a good, if the odds get really good on Bilal, it might be a good place to hedge. But I do think Ian Gary is the pick for me. And I think as far as over 1.5 rounds, yeah, I think this thing goes over 1.5 rounds like 70% of the time. Bilal hasn't been finished though, but typically I think Gary is not the one that's going to really finish you really early. And Bilal usually does kind of, he's going to win the decision, or he's going to kind of survive. So I think it's going to be interesting. But yeah, I do think over 1.5 is fine for this. And I think Bilal as a sprinkle, maybe. But I think Ian Gary's got to get it done, though, probably. So I think that's a decent parlay leg if you want to. Moving on now. I think another really interesting one, a potential dog here, actually, Hermanson. Jack Hermanson versus Miktibik Orlobai, welterweight, 3 rounds. Now, I do think it goes, as far as going over 1.5 rounds, I think most of the time it does, maybe 60% of the time. I mean, typically I think it will, though. Should be decent in a separate parlay. But, Hermanson, he's gritty, right? He's got a good grappling. He tends to push the pace, which is really important. Orbai, he's solid, but he's not like a really huge, heavy hitter to give you a fast finish. And I think Hermanson, he could take control in later rounds even. And it's weird. I'm going to put this up on there. If you look at that win, lose, win on the screen right there. And if you look at that, who he's lost to, he gets finished by like these bigger, Gregor Rodriguez, these bigger, kind of physically imposing, heavy hitting kind of guys. And Hermanson actually, he has some, fought good competition. He's he's a dog. I mean, he's gonna be bigger than Olabai, and I think like I said, he can get the pressure. He has a grappling threat there, and I think he could probably be the more heavy-handed of the two. So I think he actually is a good dog. I think it's a good sprinkle, especially if you're gonna have if you already have Miktibik Orlobai in a parlay or something. He's a favorite, but I think the odds-wise, implied odds are really good for Hermanson. I think he wins more often than the odds reflect, and I think you could even at least use it as a pre-hedge, guys. If you got Orlobai in some parlay or something, use him as a pre-hedge there, dude. So another one too. This is kind of my boy Horiguchi over here. Now I know that I think Tegir Ulanbekov is the rightful favorite here. It's flyweight, 3 rounds. And we're looking at the nice Horiguchi comeback here. And as far as go over 1.5 rounds, I did like this, but I mean it's a tricky one though, because Horiguchi has I think he's a heavy-handed of the two, and but Ulanbekov he's got a good submission threat, and but it is kind of strange because he's not like, for a Dagestani, he's not like he doesn't have that crazy wrestling pressure as far. I mean, you would assume he'd have more. He's not like an Islam Makhachev or anything, but he's a tall, lanky guy. If you look at their body types, it's completely different. Tagir Ulanbekov, just like he makes away because he's so lean. So, and Horiguchi's kind of small. It's like he's stockier guy, like no neck, but he kind of has long arms, and so he can use that. He's got the karate stance. He's gonna go in there. But I think it might be strange. What would be interesting? Like I think probably not gonna happen. But I mean, Horiguchi late KO maybe could happen. I mean, I'm just saying, just a degenerate bet. I mean, I think it'd be fun to put that. If you have Ulanbekov in a parlay, I think it's okay. And if you have over 1.5 rounds in a separate parlay, that's okay too. But I think as a little pre-hedge for fun, I think, Horiguchi maybe sprinkle on. Even Horiguchi by KO, I think that'd be kind of fun to sprinkle on, just because, little pre-hedge, little action on there on the side. So those are the 3 fights that I think might have some interesting matchups that could potentially go the dog's way, could potentially, right? And I think you could mix and match those, pre-hedge if you will. And just let me know what you're liking, what you're fading. And I'm going to have more stuff out. So make sure that you're keeping it here. And I'll see you in the next one.